Hello everyone. Thank you very much for a great start to our term. Our first week's discussion was robust, you were all engaged, and I really enjoyed learning about some of your experiences with leadership and what has shaped your definition up to this point. And it'll be very interesting for you to take a look at what you contributed this first week in terms of your leadership definition, and we'll see how much that has changed or not changed by the end of the term. So thank you so much for all your engagement. I'm going to take this time just to reflect a little bit and recap our first week as we now transition into our second week, and we'll be really delving into each exemplary practice from our course text from this point on. But there were two postings that I put into the discussion forum that I really want you to go back and take a look at and listen to if you haven't already. The one regarding managers versus leaders is an important one. There is a distinct difference between the domain of a manager, the role of a manager, versus the role of a leader. So if you have not checked that out, do go back and review that. The other one was the notion of whether leaders are born or made. And this is really important because it really touches upon the earliest leadership theories. We're going to start bringing in leadership theory, consulting the research literature to see what leadership theories have surfaced over the years, how they've evolved, which ones have stood the test of time, etc. So it'll really help enrich your knowledge base of leadership, and we'll begin to start bringing some of those in. So what we talked about a little bit this week was that leadership starts with self, right? And it then moves into a relationship between leaders and followers. You cannot be a leader unless you have a follower. And in order to be a really great leader, you also know how to be a great follower. If we think about leadership as an identifiable set of skills and abilities available to everyone, we know that leadership skills can be developed. And what we want to now begin to focus on is thinking about leadership not so much as a position of authority. We can find leaders everywhere in our lives, in our organizations. There's formal leadership and informal leadership. And if you're in a position of authority, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a great leader. And so I think we made that point very clear this week, that leaders are found behind the scenes, that each of us has an opportunity to lead and we have exhibited leadership approaches if we have ever influenced another by the power of our example. So some other things I'd like you to think about when we think about leadership. Leadership influences an organization's culture tremendously. And there are good examples of leadership and bad examples of leadership. And there's a dark side to leadership. And we will definitely get into that as we move forward this term and have great conversations around that point. I'd like you to consider the following. When you think about an exemplary leader, and that is someone who's really exhibiting the 5 practices of exemplary leadership very well. Do they simplify constantly? Do they take personal responsibility? Do they understand the breadth, the depth, and context? Do they emphasize importance of alignment and time management? Do they learn constantly? Do they stay true to their own style? Do they manage by setting boundaries with freedom in the middle? Do they stay disciplined and detailed? Hopefully you gained a clearer perspective on points that surfaced during our discussion. And the notion of situational leadership, which is a leadership theory that we'll talk about, did surface a bit. And one idea that was not raised in a clear manner was organizational awareness and emotional intelligence, and we will expand on that as well. Some questions that surfaced this past week include, are all leaders inherently good or ethical and moral? Was Hitler a successful leader? When we think of a dark side to leadership, what does that mean to you? And what distinguishes an exemplary leader from a good leader? There's a book that I'd like to recommend to all of you, and I will also post this in written form for everyone. It's a book by Atul Gawande called Better. and his name is Atul, A-T-U-L, Gawande, G-A-W-A-N-D-E. And I really recommend it. It's a very simple read, and it focuses on how we go from being good to better. Another book that I would recommend that you take a look at is Immunity to Change by Keegan and LaHaye. And it's very beneficial to review. So as we go throughout the term, I will recommend some books that I think is applicable to this course and where you're all at this particular time in relation to leadership that you may want to put on your reading book list. Couple logistical considerations for our discussions as we move forward. Take care with your grammar, spelling, and writing style. Okay, when you are writing your discussion posts, put them through spell check. Just take some time to review prior to posting. You can definitely use that through Microsoft Word as a spell check. The course focuses a lot on your experience with personal leadership development. Your understanding of the study and research of leadership needs to grow. So in your postings, I'm not looking for just your experience, but I'd like you to also bring in sources, industry or scholarly sources that you can search through the Shapiro Library to support or contradict your opinion, and use those in your postings. This is really going to assist in your learning to find out if studies and research has backed what your initial opinion or viewpoint is. So be aware that there are differences between scholarly sources that you can find through the Shapiro Library and popular websites. If you make a statement, you want to support it, if it's not your own experience, with a citation and a listing of the source that you're referencing. It's just good practice. Our online writing lab is available to assist you with any of your writing needs, so do reach out to them if the need arises. So for business professionals, it's very important that we represent ourselves clearly and that we organize what we're saying in written form in clear, understandable, in a professional manner. You want to pose questions to your peers, your classmates. Try to extend the conversation. Let's go deeper. Make sure that you're bringing, if you agree with your classmate, expand the conversation by bringing in additional supporting information. If you disagree, bring in a source and also speak to your experience that contradicts their viewpoint, all with respect, of course. And so we want you to go deeper. We want you to expand the conversation and have fun doing so. Another point about leadership is when we think about leadership, we want to think about how we'll choose and respond to different challenges that we'll face over time. And how you choose to respond to the challenges you face determines whether the situation worsens or profoundly improves the world in which you live, study, and work. Leadership theory is, again, another great source for you to learn about what has been proven to work. And if you want to learn about leadership, you can also study successful leaders, as the researchers have. So think about who you respect as a leader and why you respect them as a leader. What do they do? The study of leadership over the years has led to many theories, as we mentioned, with the later theories building upon or voiding out previous theories based on continued research. And I'm going to put this section in writing to share this with you. But again, this is now going to kick off a time where we're going to begin to study at the leadership theories and bring those into our conversations and also see how they align with what our course text authors have to say. Think about leadership as a process. Leadership development is self-development. Excellence in anything you do requires disciplined practice. You learn through action, applying what you learn and learning from both failures and successes. Research in leadership has identified shared patterns of leadership success that can be learned. So we'll explore those going forward. Okay, so just another note regarding the journal assignments. The journal assignments are a great way for you to go out and research some articles that relate to the journal assignment prompt. Some weeks there will be a specific prompt asking you to find an article related to, let's say, gender and culture, or a social and emotional intelligence. So be sure to read that weekly journal prompt entirely to see what kind of article we're asking you to search for. Some weeks it'll just be find a leadership article that resonates with you. So be careful to make sure that you're attending to that week's journal assignment. It does not matter how long the journal assignment is. What we're really looking for is an honest portrayal of what you found those key takeaway points to be in that journal article. And then why did you select the article? Why does it resonate with you? Give us enough detail there to say, is it due to experiences that you've had or thinking that you've had related to something? So definitely give us some context, some rich detail around why it resonates with you. And then the section of relating what you've learned in the article to the 5 exemplary practices of leadership, you definitely want to try to speak to each of those 5 practices. And I don't expect you to know everything about all those practices this early, but based on the knowledge that you do have, what kind of connections can you make between the article and that practice? And I expect as we move forward and you learn more about the different practices, you'll be able to bring much more detail and context in. I'm here all the time, so whenever you have a question about any of your assignments or how you're approaching your assignments, reach out to me. We can set up a Skype call. I'm happy to chat on the phone or through email, so don't hesitate to ask any questions that you do have. As we now move forward and begin to look at some of the paper assignments and milestones that you'll have, I'll be posting more and offering myself during certain times to ensure that you all know how to approach those assignments and make sure there aren't any questions or that I can answer any of your questions. So we're moving forward now into week 2. Again, thanks all for your engagement, and I'm looking forward to this week's discussion. Thanks so much.